Hey guys, welcome back. It's me, Gimpy, and I'm here with the final part on Pavlovs House by DVG for you. I'm going to be doing it a little bit different when I finish this up. Generally, when I do a review through, I'm playing the game flat out for you guys. I don't set up the cards, I don't rig anything, I just play through it and explain the pieces and components and everything as I go through it so you guys can see how the game is played and what really the game does entail, while I'm, giving my thoughts and my review and the whole process. The thing with this is I wanted to just have it as a three-parter. I've got a lot of other stuff I've got to finish this week before we leave on that trip. So I just don't have enough time left to play through the game far enough to show you all the different components that I want to cover as part of the review through. So I pulled out some specific cards that we're going to take and address, and we'll go over a few more concepts when it comes to counters and different types of attacks and resupply and all that other stuff that affects the game. Sorry I'm having to do it this way. I don't have enough time to take and devote to it. And I gotta say, it's not that I don't want to. Excellent game. I'm definitely letting you know right off the bat. I have thoroughly enjoyed my time with Pavlovs House. Really interesting game mechanics. It's something fresh that I haven't played before. All the different levels throughout the game, from down here at the individual unit level versus, the tactical level out here versus the operational level on the far side of the board. Real interesting concept. And of course, DVG, excellent components. I love how pretty much all their games have mounted boards, and they have really gotten great with their counters recently. The counters are always excellent, nice, thick, sturdy counters. Good graphics on everything, and I definitely got a kick out of the extra Kickstarter backer counters that people got to have in this game. So, neat additions. But let's take and cover just a few last concepts of the game that I want you to see real quick that haven't been touched on, and we'll wrap things up here. One thing the developer did touch on, I've got some Wehrmacht enemy cards laid out here. Before I cover that, I'm not going to cover any more about the right side of the board. Pretty much, I've already got that laid out. You guys have seen how that's going to operate. There's one last thing, forward observers and artillery, but I've got that laid out here for you guys to see that. It's pretty much just concepts here. So as far as the enemy cards are concerned, the developer did take and point out to me that one little goof I was making is when I was pulling out the 3 enemy cards to take and go across and resolve, I was flipping them all face up right off the bat. Don't do that. Have one card face up. I mean, you can draw all 3, but only look at them one at a time. That way you're not getting any foresight extra information of what you're going to be facing in the latter card. So draw a card, resolve it, draw a card, resolve it, draw a card, resolve it. That way you're not giving yourself that one little extra bonus. I wasn't thinking about that when I was showing the cards, but he is right that that does give you just a little bit of an advantage. One thing that we didn't cover previously, and again, I'm sorry that I could not get the card images to work. I don't know what's going on with them. They just will not work with my program for some reason, so I am going to have to hold them up again. Suppression. All right, so there are a few different Wehrmacht cards that will cause suppression. Mortars are one of those. You see how it says Suppressed Defender, and it has the 3 different colors that you're going to roll for and the attack level. So this is a 4 dice attack. This is very similar to attacking a wall section, whether it's green, red, or purple, except this is going to affect the troops that you have in those sections, and they can cause disruption. So with this one, you would roll to see which side that got attacked. Let's say we rolled and got a 1 or a 2, so we're going to be hitting the green side. At that point, the extra step you take is you roll to see which section of the wall that it's going to be hit. So let's say we roll another d6 and we get a 3. So we're looking at this portion right here. There's nobody here. At that point, you'll look higher. So we would come up to our next part that had next section that had a counter in it, which would be section 5, Lucy here, and then we would resolve a 4 dice attack against her, compare it against the defense level, and if it was equal to the defense level or higher, she would take a disruption token. All right, it's just that simple with it. If you look higher than the portion that was hit and there's nobody there, then you'll look lower. That's what I was talking about previously with purple 1 here being the safest spot, just due to the mechanics of the game and how you're seeing, you know, which counters get hit. You're checking higher first and then lower. So for this, if you've got someone here in purple 2, purple 1 specifically has to be hit for them to take the attack. So that's how a suppressed defender card is going to work. Not very difficult. Another one, and this one is a little more difficult. This is a big attack. It's called an assault, and it's going to evolve everything on the board, okay? All 3 sections, green, red, and purple, are going to be involved in the assault, but they're going to be conducted separately. So you'll do your green section, you'll do your red section, and then you'll do your purple section, and you're doing basically a suppress attack, just like we just talked about, okay? That mortar attack. And the way that's going to work is all your infantry type counters, so your scouts, your machine gunners, your riflemen, the Germans, you're going to add up their value. So like this scout has a 1, and this machine gunner here has a 2. So that would be a 3 attack in the green section, and you would follow those same steps to determine where that suppress attack went. Any vehicles, so like we have a Panzer II here, you're going to add up all the vehicles in the green section, then red, then purple, and again, conducting them separate. So for the green section, you would have 1, dice, 1 attack, and that's going to be conducted like an attack building, okay? And you're going to do that again for each separate section. So when you draw one of these assault cards, that is a very serious attack. That is a combination of, depending on what enemy counters are on the board, a suppress and attack building attack done against your green, red, and purple sides, with the infantry counters attacking as suppression and the vehicle counters attacking as a attack building, so attempting to lower that defense level. So you can take a lot of damage from one of these assault cards. Definitely behooves you to try to keep those counters cleared out for that reason. All right, along those lines, talking about clearing counters out, I'm going to go ahead and touch on our forward observer. If you have cleared out over on section 32, I'll throw it up in the corner here for you, and you have, or the 32nd artillery group, if you have one of these counters in there and you have a forward observer in a section, you can take and pull this off of the right side of the map and take and use this to conduct an attack against 2 adjacent enemy units in that section. Okay, so let's say our forward observer is here in purple. He draws one of these off the right side of the map, spends it. He can roll 2 dice against 2 units that are adjacent. So over here in this purple section, we have a tank and a section of scouts. He would roll 2 dice against each one and compare it against their defensive factors. If they meet or beat it, they'd be taken out. That's how artillery works. It's just that simple. So next little concept to cover is going to be your resupply. When you're drawing through your deck, your little Wehrmacht deck, and again, remember that this determines your game. You're playing through the whole deck. So that's what I'm talking about. There's a lot of game here. I just can't play through the entirety of the deck. You're going to have a lot of those cards. See, they're spaced out throughout the deck that you're going to run into. And it's those resupplies and storm group cards. And the last one that you're going to run into is one of those as well that you can participate in. I'll cover storm group here in just a sec. But basically, when you see one of these resupplies, you're going to go ahead and address it immediately. Real simple. You see how it says 1 food per 5 defenders. You start off with a couple in your supply area, and again, you can take and use your Volga transport route to take and get more in. And you're going to look at how many counters you have in the totality of the Pavlovs House, and that includes in your reserve. So all the counters that we have here, And for every 5, you're going to lose a food. So let's see, how many do I have? 5 here, 9 total. So I would spend 2 food to take and keep my guys supplied, fed, happy, good to go. Now let's say instead, when this resupply card came up, I only had 1 instead of 2, and I have 9 guys there. Well, the ones that you can feed stay, so the rest of them become casualties. At that point, 4 counters in the game, in the house, would become casualties. And if there's ever a time that you can't feed your guys and all of them get wiped out, let's say you didn't get any supplies over, a resupply came up and you've got no food, all your guys are wiped out, that's going to cost you the game if there's no one in Pavlov's house. So food is one of those items that you absolutely 100% want to make sure that you're getting over into the house as much as possible. So that covers that. Oh, and one last thing I did forget to mention covering the counters before we cover the storm group over here. Oh, once you do the resupply, you're going to take and flip it over and put it up here in the top left for your storm group. I did want to mention our weapon guys, weapon teams. They're the only ones that can take and have 2 counters in a single space, and they're going to take and use whatever weapon takes and correlates to the special letter that denotes their skill. So these guys are like anti-tank guns, and it's going to take 2 of them to use that. Definitely keep in mind, though, that when you do that, you're going to spend an action per guy. So if you go to fire that anti-tank round at, a tank in the purple section, since these guys are in purple, it's going to cost you 2 actions to fire that. And really, you can see it's got a 4 for its attack, so you're rolling 4 dice. Just like that. You're going to take your weapon from your supplies when you take and purchase it using supply points. When you take and move a guy from the reserves up into a space, he can take and grab one of those weapons and take it with him, just like that. Now, when it comes to your storm group, last major concept that I haven't really covered yet. When you're looking at this, you can see that it's got a color on it. So this one's green. Right there in the center is a shield value, so that's what you've got to meet or beat. And then over to the right, those are victory points. So you get 6 victory points for taking and beating this storm group. And the way a storm group works is you can take an attempt to do it as long as the section that's shown is clear. So if green were clear of any enemy counters, you could attempt to send however many counters you wanted to. Anyone who's in Pavlov's house can participate. So let's say we had 4 people that we wanted to take and send to it. You would take and just put them with the card, right? And for each counter that you take and put with it to attempt the, basically they're performing a raid on this, since this one is the metal worker's house. So you're sending 4 guys out of Pavlov's house, or in this case, 3 guys and Lucy, out of Pavlov's house to attempt a raid on that place. Each one gives you a dice. You're going to take and roll those however many dice that you get, and you're going to compare it to that defensive number. If you meet it or beat it, then you get that many victory points. And again, with this game, getting 1 point at the end of the game means you win. You're not racking up a buttload of points in this game. It's all about survival. So any extra points that you can get if you've got some extra guys to spare is a good thing. You can see with a score of 12, though, that you're really going to be hedging your bets. 2 guys technically could do it, but you'd want at least 3, 4, or 5 guys going on a mission like this to attempt to do it. The last one, which we saw earlier, that's a 30, and that's on the red, which is the largest group. So you would have to have the biggest area clear at the end of the game and enough guys to attempt to take and hit 30 when you're rolling the dice. That's a big score, but it's a lot of points that you can get. One last thing when it comes to the storm group, though, is that the guys don't just come back from the raid, right? You're going to have to roll a d6 after you've conducted this, right? After you figured out whether or not you got the points, you roll 1d6 for each person that went on the raid. On a 1 to 4, they're considered a casualty and they're taken out of the game. On a 5 or 6, they're considered to have survived the assault, and they get to come back and join into the reserves and be used again in the game later on. So you're hoping that they survive, but there is a good chance that most of your guys aren't going to survive the storm group. So it's not something you have to do, but it is something that you can do to take and attempt to get some extra points when it comes to your game. That pretty much covers the basic concepts of Pavlovs House. And I haven't even really touched on the operational support cards or the tactic cards that you can take and add into this game as well. If you've played it a bunch and you feel like you've got a good handle on it and the basic game isn't enough challenge for you, there's extra challenge that you can add to it through those cards, which I haven't even used yet because this has been plenty challenge for me as it stands now. So that's another neat aspect to it that you can take and increase that level of difficulty. So there is an extensive amount of replay value in the solitary game, in the fact that you can kind of bump that difficulty up if you've played through the basic version and kind of mastered it at that point. Although it's still going to sometimes come down to where the Stuka dive bombers land, because I've seen people talking about it on Facebook, and I know with my own games that sometimes you just get bombed into oblivion and there's just nothing you can do about it. You just keep having, a string of Stukas come in and you don't have enough AA and they keep hitting the wrong places and they end up wiping you out. But those are the basic concepts of the game. It's a lot of suppressing, attacking, keeping your wall strength up, as much as you can. You do have the ability to rebuild that using sapper tokens when you're doing your card play. So much going on with this game, and I gotta say, I thoroughly have enjoyed it. I definitely be playing it again, and the only reason I'm cutting this down is because I wanted to have this as a trilogy video, and I've got so much other stuff that I got to work on. If it wasn't for that, I would continue filming on with the game. Can't recommend it enough. As usual, DVG components are excellent. The graphics for the game are nice and unique. The only faults that I can give to the game is the fact that for a DVG game, it does not have the sequence of play anywhere on the board, which is something that I've become used to. But like I said, the sequence of play is 3 steps. Even I can remember that with my shitty memory, so it's not really a big deal. And the player aids do a good job of reminding you of what all the different cards or counters or different actions that you can take mean. And the player aids have references to the specific page in the rulebook that you need to look to if you can't remember just on the summary itself. So excellent done. Components, great. I definitely have enjoyed it. I highly recommend it. This is probably going to be a contender for one of the I've been thinking about doing another top 5 solitaire games because I've done so many other solitaires since I did the last one, not to mention the fact that I forgot to have Fields of Fire in the last one, so I need to do another top 5 solitaire war games anyway, and this would definitely be a contender on that list. I have enjoyed it that much, and it is unique. It is something different that I haven't experienced before with all the different aspects of the game. Can't recommend it enough. Definitely 2 Gimpy thumbs up. That's going to be it for me. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Y'all take care. I will see you in the next one.